I had a video I posted probably about 6 months back called "I Still Use the Word Fag." In it, I pointed out how the creators of South Park, as well as Mike Judge, were using the words gay, queer, and fag to denigrate the anti-intellectuals, and I encouraged others to do the same, perhaps as a way to eventually change the meaning of the words. Well, let's just say I got a lot of negative feedback on the subject. Not in a hateful way, but I was being compared to Veritas 48 and his crazy crusade to turn the N-word into a positive word. I tried to explain how it was completely different, and I couldn't actually explain myself well at all. Then some changes occurred in my life that put it all into perspective. My brother moved out of my mom's house, and we started hanging out a lot more. Archie Fantasies and I are both avid feminists, and would chide him when he used a sexist joke, and explain in great detail as to why it was wrong and offensive. But some of the jokes we made, and some of the humor we used, confused him as well. We love the YouTube video by Jon Lajoie called "Show Me Your Genitals," which is this uber-sexist moron talking about he doesn't respect women and just uses them for sex. My brother couldn't see why this was funny, and his jokes were not. It was very difficult to explain because understanding the difference is just natural for us. I recently had to admit to myself that I'm a comedy hipster. If I see someone post an old worn-out joke or meme on their page, it's hard not to cringe or say something like, "Aw, you just discovered the internet, isn't that cute?" Comedy is a major part of my life. My older younger brother accused me of being a comedy addict since I watched it over all forms of entertainment, as I've religiously watched every single Mystery Science Theater, Monty Python, South Park, Family Guy, Beavis and Butthead, and Red Dwarf. If I had actually any acting ability or stage presence, I would probably be in comedy, but sadly my natural awkwardness makes me slightly less talented acting-wise as Jon Stewart, but at least he has a good stage presence. So, to explain this to someone who's not grasped the finer points of comedy was really difficult. Just this last month, we hit on what the problem was. Satire. He doesn't grasp it. Satire is considered an intellectual inside joke. You must understand the subject in detail before you make a satirical joke, or you will fail at it. You must understand the subject at least a little bit, or you will not get the joke and or take the person seriously and get offended. What is even worse is when a person listens to a piece of satire and thinks the person is being 100% serious and agrees with him. Satire breaks down and analyzes a subject to its very core, then takes it to its most logical extreme, following the bad arguments. It takes many forms, one of which is a form of sarcasm, in which one plays a character which is an exaggerated caricature and embodiment of all the negative traits of people who espouse a belief. Not everyone who believes one argument believes or acts like this person in all aspects, but it is a collection of negative traits from many people distilled into one person. This is used to point out the stupidity of a belief or ideal. Examples of this are Archie Bunker, Beavis and Butthead, Eric Cartman, and Stephen Colbert. They are distilled essences of negative traits in modern society. If you see any of these people as role models, there is something horribly wrong with you. The exaggeration of these traits allows you to better grasp what it is you hate about a certain ideal or mentality. Satire is a deconstruction of an ideal or stereotype. It is a form of comedy that requires prior knowledge or homework. It's why it's considered the highest form of comedy, as opposed to puns, which are considered the lowest form of comedy, because all you need to know to pull off puns is the language you speak. When puns are done satirically, however, like Jim Henson did so masterfully, it can raise it to mid-level form of comedy, which is hilarious in its own right, but any form of satire is difficult to pull off. Christopher Hitchens was shocked and appalled when some students asked him if Stephen Colbert was the next Mark Twain. Hitchens felt like Twain was being insulted. However, Hitchens was also quite a purist, and since Colbert doesn't have the dry wit that Twain had, of course, it's not the same to him. Plus, to get Twain, you have to know a ton of history, and Hitchens is a massive history buff. While with Colbert, you just need to know current events to get the joke. Of course, Twain was writing about current events in his time period, so I think Hitchens has a bit of a golden age syndrome going on. So to those of you who are a bit shocked of my use of gay slang to insult anti-intellectuals, I can now understand. I don't want to give free license to people without a grasp of satire to use derogatory terms. After considering it, I don't use that kind of satire around people who are themselves anti-intellectual or homophobic because they'll probably not get the satire and it will end up doing more harm than good. So, if the person you are with does not get satire, or you don't feel like you know how to pull off satire well enough, or if that person doesn't know you well enough, I highly recommend you avoid derogatory slurs. If you want an example of satire, go watch the Jon Lajoie video in the bottom, and you'll see all the elements of satire that I mentioned. Just to let you know, he is not a sexist, he is making fun of sexists. Also, if you're easily offended, don't go watch that video. So hopefully I was able to better explain my position. Of course, now I'm going to have to still have that group of people who tell me, I can say whatever I want, I have free speech, and if I don't use the words like fag and nigger, then my free speech will be limited and taken away by the government. To them I say, go fuck yourselves. There, my free speech isn't limited because if I hadn't said that, then I would have limited my own free speech, and my right to tell you to go fuck yourself would have been taken away by the government. Just like if I don't cheat on my girlfriend, then, I won't have used that right, and Sharia law will come into place and stone me if I end up doing so. So, I better exercise any right that I have, otherwise it'll be taken away, even if it's something that's not that good for me. Now, excuse me, I'm going to go drink myself stupid with alcohol and just completely destroy my liver, so I still have that right. Thank you. Seriously.